Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another Technolive. How are you this week? I'm pretty over the moon. My bathroom's been fixed.
Oh, is that the problem with the toilets that's
Oh
had a
yeah, yeah,
bucket underneath it for, or was it a sauce? No, it was a saucepan, wasn't it? Underneath it for
yeah. No,
many,
the
many
the the
months.
bolts went rusty,
Uh-huh.
and so water was leaking out of it. But that's all sorted now. Hang on. I've got Oh, what's that doing on?
We're off to the usual
We're off to the
technical
usual problems.
difficulties.
Oh, I had an extra filter installed on my voice, and it was making my volume go weird.
Ah,
So, apologies if my voice went a little bit weird there, but it should be back to normal. Or it could be worse. I don't know. I can't actually listen to these things, so...
well, neither can I, because I'm hearing you through Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't, if I click audio on YouTube, I basically get a delayed version of you, and then I don't know who's actually talking and when.
Yeah.
So it's, oh boy.
I mean, the audio problem is just... Trying to do audio for streaming is a nightmare. I've got 2 mixing desks, 2 microphones, and none of it works. So if
And
it's a
apart
really
from a
horrible
pear
audio,
tree.
anyone want to jump in and chat and tell us off for it, feel free. That'd be very useful.
I am monitoring the chat periodically, so
Yeah. Well, we're just going to jump straight into it.
yes.
We've done a lot of simulations on Technolive before, a lot of MakeCode simulations. And you've never been around for them, Dan.
No. And,
So, sorry.
well, MakeCode isn't really my realm of expertise, but it certainly is yours, Jack. So
Oh,
I
it's
am
one of my
looking forward
favourites.
to this.
Yeah, no, ages ago, I did a live stream on Conway's Game of Life, built in MakeCode Arcade.
Oh, okay.
And that's one of my favourite streams.
Uh-huh.
And then a little while back, I did Mandelbrot Fractals in MakeCode. Another one of
Okay.
my favourite streams. And these are all simulations. They do something. And the fun thing about doing simulations on a screen is it looks cool.
Well, Mandelbrot, I was here for Mandelbrot.
You were here for Mandelbrot? I thought I did
Uh-huh.
that myself.
I remember watching with us doing the Mandelbrot, unless you incorporated it into another live stream and I saw it via something else. I definitely remember doing something with Mandelbrot.
Oh no, I've been incredibly rude. Sorry, I forgot you existed. Sorry, Dan.
No, it's fine.
Oh, I swear I had a memory of doing that whilst you were on holiday or something. But well, you're
Well, there
here
we
for
are.
a next one, which is Sandpiles. Have you ever heard of a sandpile?
Do you know, I haven't. So this is also new to me.
Well, it's
so
obvious.
not-
It's a pile of sand. How
Well,
have you not
okay.
heard of that?
Okay. You see now. Wow.
No, I'll tell you the truth. It's a mathematical sand pile.
Yes.
And I just created a new project here called Sandpiles 3 because I had to test this one out a lot to try and get it right. And
Okay.
hopefully I've got it there. But yeah, a mathematical sand pile is basically you start with a big old grid of nothing. And you put a grain of sand on one of the squares.
Okay.
And then you put another grain of sand on top of that square. And then you put another grain of sand on top of that square. And once you've got a certain number of grains of sand on that square, what happens to that pile, do you think? If you try and pile too much sand on one spot.
Does it start to fall over? Or
Yeah,
something?
it starts to tumble over. So the squares next to it, the sand that you're putting on top of that pile then tumbles onto the squares next to it.
Yeah.
And if we kind of simulate that with colours, we make some really trippy patterns.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, this is one of our simulation streams.
So it might not go to plan.
It might not go to plan, but the thing about the simulation streams is sometimes we have to do a lot of code before we can show off anything that actually happens, which can be a little bit boring because it's like, code, and then you get to the end and it works.
But that's kind of like how a video game is when you think about it. It is all code at the end of the day. It's a lot of code, but the end reward is what's...
Yeah, but the trouble is, as you're building a video game, you can click play and see what it is at a certain state.
No, you are right in that, and yeah, that is true.
Whereas with this one, we only click play pretty much at the very end.
Yeah, I guess that is a slight problem.
But we'll give it our best. The first thing we need to do is we need to change the background colour. So I'm happy to take any suggestions. I've just gone to the scene tab and picked set background colour.
Well, I think as per... Well, actually, I'm wondering, with it being Sandpiles, should we go with like a sandy yellow?
Yeah, sandy yellow is a good one. One thing I should mention, though, is we don't want it to be any of the first 3 colours. So we want any colour after red.
Ah, okay. So in that case, let's go with...
Oh, no, yeah, sand's perfectly fine. Yellow sands.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I've gone for. Nice. It's almost Technocamp's yellow, actually.
Oh, it is, actually.
And the next bit is why I like MakeCode so much, is because you have images, and you have direct control over images, and that's why simulations are so easy. And the place to go for images is in the Advanced tab.
Uh-huh.
Actually, first, silly me, we'll need a place to store that image.
Mm-hmm.
And we usually store stuff in variables. So I'm going to go to variables and make a variable. And this is going to be where we keep all the sand. And it could be on a table, could be on the beach. I'm going to put table because that's easier to type. It's just where we're going to be dumping all of our sand.
I have a question about when you are making a new, what would it be? Not a file, but when you're making a new MakeCode arcade, or when you're making a new script for MakeCode arcade, or even in Minecraft with things like for the agent, why do you get those smiley faces that appear as you type more characters into the name of the script?
I think it's to encourage people to have sensible names rather than test 1, test 2, test 3.
Fair enough.
I think because there's a whole publishing side of MakeCode Arcade that I've not really explored.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's to make those stand out different from each other. So okay. I'm not entirely sure. But in the Images tab, we've got all the stuff we can do with images. And we're going to be touching on quite a few of these today. But we just want to start with creating a blank image. And what we have is just a grey blank image in a grey blob. And we're going to put that in our table variable. Because that's one cool thing I quite like about MakeCode. Anything can be a variable. A sprite, a sound, a number, some text, or an image.
Makes it very nice to use. By comparison to many programming languages where it just says you can have a number or a character. And then you're just like, oh. Or a string. And then it's like, at least languages like Python let you do the... I know you're giving up more memory, but at least languages like Python let you do things like not necessarily specify what is going into the variable.
Yeah.
And it picks it and it assigns it for you.
Yeah, that's quite a nice thing with MakeCode as well. But I've just clicked on this image, and we're not going to draw anything in our image. It's kind of pointless. It's just there to give us somewhere. We're just making somewhere to do stuff with. We do need to change its size, though. We need it to take up the whole of the screen. And the screen on MakeCode Arcade Simulator is 160 pixels wide by 120 pixels tall. So what's what we need to do in the bottom left-hand corner? In the bottom left-hand corner, we got 2 tiny numbers. At the moment, it's 16 by 16. We need to change the first number to 160. As you can see, it's gone wide. And then we need the second number to 120. And that's it for our image. We just click done. That's our table. We've made an area to put all our sand.
Lovely.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Oh, we don't even need to do that. Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of on to the next bit. What we really need to do for the next bit, though, is we need to say, forever, I want you to start doing some sandy things. Oh, there's no better way of describing that. Until we get to the actual code. Yeah, just do sandy things forever. To get a forever, I go into loops. But there's a problem with this forever. This forever doesn't have a divot at the top, so I can't put it inside. I need it to go inside. So I can't use forever. Instead, I need to use while false. Because that does have a divot at the top, a little cutout.
Ah, yes.
And we don't want while false because that will never happen. We want while true.
While true.
Yeah. If you ever made a game in Python, you'll know this while true quite well. But you're going to click the drop-down arrow and change that to true. And all that's saying is...
While true is the same as a forever loop, really, isn't it?
It is. The only difference is we can do a while true inside an on-start.
Uh-huh.
I mean, technically, we could do a forever loop outside the on-start. But I'd be worried that we might accidentally start the forever loop without making the table first.
Yeah.
So this way it forces the table to be made. But the next step is to make a copy of our table. Because if we start pouring sand on our table, it's gonna make the maths screw up. What we need to do instead is we need to look at a copy of our table, and then pour the sand on that, and then replace our old table with the new table. So I'm gonna go to variables again. And I'm going to make another variable. And this is going to be new version. Because it's a new version of the table.
Okay.
And inside my while loop, I'm going to set it to 0. And yeah, there's a very interesting command in images to make a clone of an existing image. So in images, I'm going to scroll down until I find clone picture. And I'm going to put that in the new version. So the new version is going to store a copy of... Well, it's not going to store a copy of picture because we don't have anything called picture. I need to use the drop-down arrow, change that to a table.
Okay, I think I can kind of see what's going on here.
Yeah, this is very similar to... what we did for the Conway's Game of Life live stream. Well, this is what we didn't do in the Conway's Game of Life live stream. When I designed that, the design I used was not really Conway's Game of Life. It was slightly different. And the reason it was different, it was checking the table all the time. Whereas it needs to check the table once the table's finished all its calculations. So that's why we're making a copy of the table. We also need to look through our table. And our table's made of pixels. And we need to do one after the other. So the way to do this is we check each column of pixels on the table. And then we look down the column, and then we find a pixel on the column, and then we check that the entire row that pixel shares. So it kind of... It's like how you'd write sentences in a book. You start writing on one line, and you go left to right, and then you reach the end, so you go to the next line and you go left to right.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing that with our table. We're looking closely at our table with a microscope, going from left to right, and then once we've got to the end, we go back to the start, but we go down a line. And
Okay.
We'll need to do that for the whole height of the table, and we need to do that for the whole width of the table. And I'm going to do that with two variables. I'm going to start the variables at zero. I was about to say zero, as if that's a kind of get you right, as a cereal made out of the number zeros.
I mean, there are Cheerios.
Oh,
cereal
Cheery
brands.
Zeros.
Other brands are available.
Yeah. Trouble is, it's zero, so you pour your milk on it and your milk disappears. Anyway, can you tell it's reaching the end of the year?
Yeah, we've reached that point. We have.
I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to make a variable that's going to start counting how far up or down the table we are. So we're looking for the height of the table. Actually, that's a bad description. I'm just going to put height in, but what I actually mean is how far forward and backward of the table you are. I mean, it's a variable name. I could call it Simon if I wanted to.
But it's always important to call it something sensible.
Yeah. I mean, Simon, Glenda, Ethel, all out. Height is probably not very good description as well, but let's just set it to height. And we're going to set it to 0. Okay? And if height is checking how far forward or back of a table, what other direction do we need to check?
Well, we need to go from, like you said, left to right, right? Right?
Yeah, right. So, are you going to call that width?
Yeah, width would be more sensible than right?
Yeah, right. But I'm going to set width to 0 as well. And what we're doing is we're just starting our counting from 0, and we're going to go up. And we're going to go up in a special way using a for loop. So if I go to loops and scroll down, we've got this for index from 0 to 4. And what that means is start index at 0, count it all the way up to 4. Okay? We're going to do that, but we're going to change a couple of things. So I'm going to pick it up and pop it underneath my set width, but it's still inside the while loop.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nested loops.
It's not just one nested loop we're going. We're going very deep today. Yeah. Another thing is index. That's creating a variable for us. I mean, what's the point when we've already made a variable? We've made a variable called height.
We have.
So I'm going to right-click on that and then select height. And it just changes it for me. This will test your memory, Dan. Do you remember how tall the screen was in pixels?
Oh, was it 160?
Oof, not quite. That's the width.
Oh no, was it 120?
Yeah, 120.
There we go.
So I'm going for height from 0 to 120. So it's counting from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen. Okay. Now every time we go down a line of the screen, we need to also count along that. So I need to get another for loop, and this is where we get deeper and deeper with our loops. Gonna find another for loop, for index from 0 to 4, and I'm gonna put it inside the height loop.
Oh.
So
good.
we've now got a while loop. We've got a for loop inside a for loop inside a while loop inside a start.
Yes, which is in itself a loop. Well, it's not really a loop, is it? It's the same color as a loop, but it's more of a just.
It's an event.
Yeah,
It's something a bit different.
Yeah.
Because an event can be triggered at any time. Except on start, which only gets triggered at the start.
At the start. Uh-huh.
I'm going to try and work my way through this, but I'm desperately in need of a sneeze, so sorry if I'm Anyway, I'm going to right-click on index and change that to width. It's coming. Hang on. Oh.
It's because you've thought about the sneeze, so now it's gone away.
Oh, I hate it when you try and sneeze and it doesn't work. Hang on. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, but if I right-click on index and change it to width, and this is where your 160 comes in, because that's the width of the screen. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, and that's kind of on the right lines. What we need to do, what these two loops are doing is they're checking every single pixel, one after the other, from left to right, then top to bottom.
Uh-huh.
Trouble is, what are we checking about that pixel? Well, to bring it back to sand, we need to check how many grains of sand are sitting on each pixel.
Okay.
But that's hard to do. We can't keep track of, how many pieces of sand are on each pixel. So we do it a different way. We do it with the color of the pixel. So, for example, if a pixel has 4 grains of sand on it, its color might be orange. If it's got 3 grains of sand on it, its color might be blue. If it's got 8 grains of sand on it, its color might be turquoise.
Right.
We're going to go for a slightly easier option today. We're only going to use a couple of colors, and we're going to use the colors that are built into MakeCode Arcade.
Okay.
Because MakeCode Arcade gives every color a number. And if I quickly go into the image editor, I just want to show this off. So these are the over on the left, we've got the default colors of MakeCode Arcade. We've got color 0, which is transparent. We've got color 1, which is white. Color 2, which is red. Color 3, which is pink. And if you hover over them, it tells you what number they are. Right. And we're going to use these numbers because it's easier doing it with numbers than doing it with colors. So what we're going to say is color 0 shows that there's no colors on there's no grains of sand on that square. Color 1 means there's 1 grain of sand, and color 2 means there's 2 grains of sand. Right. We're only going to do those 3 for today, because the more colors you add, the slower everything runs.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we need to do here is we need to check whether or not the color of the pixel is red. Because if it's red, what that means is there are 2 grains of sand on that pixel, and that means that pile is going to collapse. And when it collapses, it goes back to being 0 again. So let's check the color of the pixel we're talking about. So we'll need an if, because an if will do all the checking for us. So a nice big blue if inside the width loop. And we need to check whether the color is number 2. And the color of the pixel, if it's red, is equal to number 2. Okay, so let's go to logic again, which is where I picked up the if. We're going to pick up an equals block, because that's what we're saying. If the color of the pixel equals the color red, which is the number 2. So in the right-hand side, I'm going to put the number 2. There we are. Now it's complaining because 0 is not equal to 2. But what we need to do over in the left-hand side is we need to find the color of one of the pixels on the screen. So if we go to the Images tab, we can find this round sausage called Picture Color at X, Y. And that's the one we want. And that goes in the left-hand side.
I'm looking at all of these loops nested inside of each other, and it's giving me flashbacks to something I had to do a couple of years ago in C with random numbers.
Ooh.
for university, and it's not. I remember I was stuck on it for so long, and my I know that my partner can attest to this because we both found it incredibly painful trying to get it to work. And it's one of those things where when you get it working, you get a great amount of satisfaction from it. But just the sheer number of loops and confusion and trying to get it to work, oh man, it was just...
Wait until you try and do 3D. Because then you need a loop for the width, a loop for the height, and a loop for the depth. And all of those are probably inside a loop that's keeping a game
another
running.
loop. Yeah, we don't need that.
Yeah. But we're going to change it so it's actually checking the table. It's checking the color of the table. Because we don't have anything called picture. And we need to check it at the right place. If we check it at 0x, 0y, that means we're checking just the top left-hand corner. So what we need to do is we need to check... Well, luckily we've got these already made for us. We've got the width...
And the height,
and the height, yeah. So the width is the X. So I'm just going to drag the width straight out from the 4 and put it in the X. Okay.
Oh, isn't that convenient that you can do?
Yeah. That's one thing I do like about MakeCode. You can just
it
drag.
It just duplicates it for you, does it? That's very useful.
We're going to drag out the height as well and put it in the Y. Okay. So as we're going along, each line of the table, we check to see if each pixel along that line is red or not. And if it is red, what we need to do is we need to force the color of our dodgy copy of the table to be 0. So we're not changing the color of the table, we're changing the color of the new version.
Right.
Of the clone. So we're going to go to images again. And we're going to set color at X, Y. Okay. Now again, picture doesn't exist, so it's about to throw a wobbly, which it has done. Because we've never made anything called picture. So I'm going to click the drop-down arrow, and I need to be very, very careful here that I make sure I select whatever we call the copy of our table. So for me, I called it new version. So I'm going to make sure I select that. Because we're working with the copy of the original, we're not working with it itself. Okay. Now, I don't want to change the top left-hand corner. I want to change the bit we're looking at, so I need width and height again. So I'm going to pick up width from the for loop, put it in the X. I'm going to pick up height from the for loop and put it in the Y. And, finally, I need to change what color it turns to. Now, we said we would use color 0 to represent 0 grains of sand. The trouble is, if I click on here, there is no color 0. We've got grey, white, red, pink, orange. We don't have a color 0, which is very annoying. And I don't know why they've done it like that. So instead, I need to put the number 0 in here. And the only place to find numbers is in the math panel, where I can just pick up this big fat 0 sitting all on its own and pop it in there. So yeah, if a place on the table has more than 2 grains of sand, we make it topple. We make it go back to 0.
Question:
Yeah.
is it possible to use hex codes or otherwise in the numbers section where we set? And so obviously we can only use, 3 different colors here for the sake of speed. But could it be that is it possible for you to have hex codes or RGB codes or RGBA codes?
I don't think it's possible, because if you want to change the colors of MakeCode Arcade, you have to create a whole new palette.
Right, okay.
Because MakeCode Arcade's kind of meant to be a bit like old retro games.
Uh-huh.
Where you can't use too many colors at once.
Ah, okay.
That's a new one on me. I'll have to try that out, actually. I think you can do it in JavaScript mode, but you can't do it in blocks.
Not in blocks. Okay, fair.
Yeah. But yeah, we've toppled the pile. Brief question though. If I have a pile of sand and it topples over or spills over, where do the grains I'm pouring on top go to?
Well, that depends, doesn't it? Because it won't always necessarily go the same way, will it?
Not quite, but we're thinking mathematically. We're going to say that they always go certain directions.
A certain direction.
So if you imagine a square-based pyramid, and you pour sand on top of it, where's the sand going to go? Some of it's going to go to the front of the pyramid.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Some of it's going to go to the left of the pyramid. Some of it's going to go to the right of the pyramid. And some of it's going to fall behind the pyramid.
Behind it. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we need to do. We need to make the pixels next to our pile of sand. We need to make those pixels have more sand fall onto them. And this is where the maths comes in. So I'm going to look at the pixel that we found out is red, and I'm going to add a grain of sand to the pixel that's left of it, and the pixel that's right of it, and the pixel that's behind it, and the pixel that's in front of it.
Okay.
So I need to work out a way of how I can add colours. Because currently there's no way of adding colours in MakeCode Arcade. So I need to write my own description of how adding works. And I'm going to do that with a function. Down in the Advanced tab, I'm going to go to Functions. And I'm going to make a function. Okay. Add gives us a blue block. I'm going to call mine add. So, yeah, I've made my own plus symbol, basically. But how many numbers sit next to a plus symbol? You got the one on the left, the one on the right,
and the one on the right,
and you add them together. So I'll need to somehow give my add function. I'm going to have to somehow give it 2 numbers. So I'm going to go up to where it says add a parameter. I'm going to add a number. And this is going to be our X. Because it's going to be the position of the pixel we're talking about. And I'm going to add another number. I'm going to call it Y. Why, you ask? Because... Sorry, I couldn't resist that. Yeah, so we got X for our width and Y for our height. And these are just the locations, the X location of our pixel we're talking about and our Y location. And that's all we need for that. Function add X, Y. I'm going to click done. Okay. I'm going to put it over on the right, just for more room. And yeah, I'm zooming in on this one because that's what we're looking at for now. Of course, remember, we're on YouTube. If you need to see the code that I've written so far, you can always rewind. It catches up later and automatically, so you can always watch at your own speed.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go to my function. And what I need to do here is I need to tell it how to add colors. So, first of all, I need to detect what color my pixel currently is. Then I need to upgrade it to the next color. So I'm going to go for an if statement. So I'm going to go to logic. I'm going to pick up an if. And in the bit where it says true, we need to somehow test the color of one of the pixels. So it's pretty much exactly as we did it over here. So as a bit of a recap of that, we need to use the equals. So I'm going to go to logic, scroll down, and there we are. We get a big old equals. That's going to go in our if. So if something equals something. Now on the left-hand side, we need to use a bit of code that finds out the color of the pixel we're talking about. So to do that, I'm going to go to images, scroll down until we find the picture color at X, Y, sausage. This sausagey shape one. And this goes in the left-hand side of our equals. There we are. Now for this one, we don't want to be checking picture because, as always, lovely little error there. We want to be checking our table. So we're checking the color of the table at X, Y. Actually, at the moment it says 0, 0. That means we're checking the top left-hand corner. We don't want to check that. We want to check X, Y taken from our function. So in our function, I'm going to pick up X, pop it in there. I'm going to pick up Y, pop it in there. Oh, these simulation ones. Oh, there's so much code.
There is a lot of code.
I'm worried I'm going to have to keep checking on you, see if you've fallen asleep then. Sorry about that.
No.
But yeah. We are checking the color of a pixel at location XY to see whether or not it's equal to 0. Now, thankfully, we don't need to actually change anything about this bit because 0 is our first color. 0 is the color that means there is no grains of sand. There are 0 grains of sand. So if I've got 0 grains of sand and I add 1 to it, how many grains of sand do I have?
1.
Yeah. We're going to represent 1 grain of sand with a white color because that's the order that MakeCode Arcade counts its colors. So it goes 0 being transparent, 1 equals white, 2 equals red, 3 equals pink, and so on. So what we need to do here, inside the if, is we need to set the color of our duplicate table to white. So I'm going to go to images. I'm going to pick a set picture color at XY. Pop it down. And again, we're going to change picture, but I need to be very careful. Again, I'm only picking our knockoff copy, our new version of the table. So making sure that's set to new version. And again, we want to set the right place. We want to set it X, Y, taken from the function. And also, we need to be careful about the color. So I'm clicking on the color. And it could be, as I said, we have 0 is nothing. 1 is white. So I'm going to click white there to make sure it goes to white. Oh, we're nearly there. It does feel like a slog with the simulation ones, but we're nearly there. So we've told the computer how to add 1 to the color 0, which makes the color white. Now we need to work out what do we do if we add 1 to the color white. Well, it makes color red, which is number 2. So the way I'm going to do that is with an else if. And to get an else if, I have to go to my blue if, and I need to click the plus, which gives me an else. Then I need to click the plus again, which gives me an else if. Then I can need to click the minus to get rid of the else, which is one of my complaints about MakeCode Arcade, actually.
Yeah, that's not as user-friendly as... what language is it that lets you... hang on, I need to think. It might be Gamefruit. No, it's not Game... Yes, it's Gamefruit that lets you actually choose what you want to attach to your if statement. So you can drag and drop, you can click the plus symbol, and then it brings up like a separate little box where you can actually say, I want an else if here, I want another else if, etc., etc.
That would be so much easier.
And it builds it up for you, which is actually a nice feature. This kind of faffy add, might, subtract thing is a bit irritating, isn't it?
Yeah, because as soon as you click plus, it gives you an else. And you have to do another plus to get an else if, and then you have to delete the else.
Yeah.
Which just makes no sense. But what we need to do in the else if is we need to check whether the color of the pixel is white. So what I'm going to do to save me a lot of effort is I'm just going to click the diamond of the top if. I'm just going to right click and duplicate. Where would we be without copy and paste?
Still probably trying to do a lot of things that have already been done.
Oh, we'd still be... Yeah, if you think about it, someone invents the wheel, in 100,000 BC or something ridiculous. If no one copies it, then we'd still have to invent the wheel.
That is true.
There we are, copy and paste saved humanity.
It did.
Yeah. But we've copied that whole thing, and we're going to change this time the number 0 to a number 1. Because as I said, the colour white is the colour 1. So we put a 1 in there. And as for the next bit, that's also nice and easy. I click again on where we set the colour of the copy. So I duplicate that. And instead of setting it to white, I set it to red. Okay, so if we have a pixel with no color and we add 1 to it, it becomes white. If we have a pixel that's white, we add 1 to it and it becomes the color red. And that's all we need for that bit. We can go back to the rest of our code. Nearly there. What we need is, I don't know, hand out some sweets to everyone who makes it through this one.
If you obviously don't do it just yet, but if you were to convert this into Python or JavaScript at the end, would it completely destroy the code, or would it actually let us view it sensibly and then move back to blocks without shouting at us about doing something that we shouldn't?
Ooh, I'll have to give it a go, because
I would like to see how complicated this looks in text-based language.
I reckon it'd be a lot easier in text-based language because you're not running around all over the place.
Yeah.
But we might have a little peek at that at the end. I never want to risk it as I'm building something, though.
No, absolutely not, because it might just completely destroy it and then we're doomed.
But yeah. Anyway, I'm back over to my original bit of code I was working on with the on start. And I'm zooming in again on the if that is in there. And this is why we made the add function. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to add 1 grain of sand onto every block that's near a block we find that is about to topple.
Mm-hmm.
So, inside this if, I need to do some adding. So I'm going to go to functions. And I'm going to use call add. And I'm going to put it underneath where we reset the toppled pile. Now it's inside the call add that I specify which direction I'm talking about. Am I talking about the pixel in front, the pixel to the left, the pixel behind, or the pixel to the right? Okay, and for that I need to change the location I'm talking about. So, the current location is width, height. I need to talk about the one in front of that, which will be height -1, width +0.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We're getting into this territory again. If you've seen my Conway's Game of Life one, we had to do this whole different direction thing 8 times. It's a nightmare. So I'm just going to do it, and I could explain it step by step, but it'll just take so long. So it's best for, once I've finished these 4 lines of code, if you just pause, just take a look at them, make sure you get all the numbers correct, make sure you get all the symbols correct. And there's no other way to do it, I'm afraid. So I'm going to go to math, and I'm going to get a plus block, and I'm going to put it in the first part of call add. Then I'm going to go to math, going to pick up a plus block, and put it in the second part of call add. Okay? Now, in the left-hand side of the first plus block, that's where I'm going to be doing all my adding onto the width. So I'm going to get variables. I'm going to find width and get it in that side. Then I'm going to find variables again, find height, and that goes in the left-hand side of the right-hand plus block. You're following along, right?
Oh, I'm trying.
I've not left you behind.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You need to know your left and rights of this a lot. But okay. We've got that done. We now just need to do different patterns, different variations. So for the first one, I'm going to add 1 onto the width. So for the width one, I'm going to put a 1 in the plus. There we are. So we do width +1, height +0. Okay? Now, I need to duplicate this whole thing. So I'm going to right-click on the call add and duplicate. And for this one, we need to do width -1. So with the plus symbol, I'm going to use the drop-down arrow to change that to a minus. So call add width -1, height +0. Nearly there. Okay, 2 more lines. So I'm going to click on this, duplicate it. This one needs to be width +0, height +1. And finally, I need to left click on this one, duplicate, right click on that, width +0, height -1. So, we do one where we add 1 to width, -1 from the width. And then we do one where we +1 to height and -1 to height.
Well, there we go.
Okay. We're nearly there.
How does this make you? How does all this code make you feel so far, Jack?
Oh, I want to cry.
That's the word.
Now, our code currently does nothing, and you can actually see it running over on the left. It's just a completely blank screen. What we need to do is we need to actually start putting some sand in our world. And I'm going to do that with I'm going to put a rectangle of sand, just sort of plonk it right in the middle. So, I've got 4. I'm at the bottom of my if statement. Underneath that, I've got 4 green bars. One belongs to the start, the next belongs to the while, the next belongs to a for loop, and the final one belongs to a for loop. My next code needs to go between the middle two. So we go one green bar, second green bar, then the next bit of code, then the last, then the last.
And I can imagine that if you were to place it in between the wrong green bars, it would have some kind of
it would
catastrophic
completely change the output.
A catastrophic snowballing effect kind of problem that the output just turns into a complete mess.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to images, and I'm going to pick up the first bit of code in images. Fill rectangle in picture. And what this does is it places a rectangle in our picture. I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to put it so it's between the first pair and the second pair of green lines. So we go 1 green line, 2 green line, our code, 3rd green line, 4th green line. Okay. Now for here, we want to be changing the next version. So we're going to put a rectangle in our next version of the table. And we could put it anywhere we liked in the picture. We could put it in the top left. We could put it in the bottom right. We could put it in the middle. As long as we choose an X number that is less than 160 and a Y number that is less than 120. Actually, what I'm going to say is be even more careful with these. You don't want them exactly on 160 or on exactly 120 because you might not see your rectangle. Because this is describing the top left-hand corner of the rectangle we're going to be painting. So, do you have a suggestion for X and Y? Dan?
Oh, let's go with... Can it be completely random?
Completely random. Just as long as it's less than 160 and 120.
Okay, let's go with X 19.
19. No, 19.
Then let's go with Y as... I'm going to start with low numbers, so let's go with 6.
Okay, so this will be quite a bit way up in the top left-hand corner, but that'll still be cool. And I'm going to make it about 5 pixels wide and about 5 pixels tall. Now, finally, this needs to be the colour that represents our maximum number of grains of sand we can have at any one point. Okay? And for our version, that's going to be red, because we said that the maximum was 2, and 2 is the colour red. Okay? So I've made a rectangle that's going to sit in our picture, and it's going to constantly be there because when we pour sand into our world, we want the sort of sand to keep on pouring. We don't want the sand to stop. So this is like, if you imagine, this is like a spout of a jug that's infinitely big. Just keeps on pouring sand constantly.
Okay.
Underneath this, we need to make sure our table is now updated with new information that's been made in the new version. So I'm going to go to variables. I'm going to find a set block. And I'm going to put it underneath fill rectangle. And we want to set the table. Oh, like with... Sorry, I just realised I set the table as in put plates and knives and forks on it. I could have made a joke out of that, but I just laughed at the thought of me making a joke before I made the joke.
There's a week to go before Christmas, Jack.
Yeah, we're nearly there. I'm just waiting to get all the crackers open and get new material for my jokes for next year's Technolives.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I was very tempted into a joke just then. I avoided it. Anyway, we're going to set the table, but we're going to set it to the new version. So in variables, I'm going to find new version and pop it in set table 2. So we're updating the table. And I'm fine. 2 lines of code left. 1, we need to see what's going on. And for that, we're going to go to scene, because we need to see. And in scene, we're going to set the background image of the game. Because once we set the background image to the table, we actually get to see what the sand looks like. So set background image. And I'm going to pop into variables, and I'm going to find table. So we're now setting the background image to be the table, so we can see what's happening with the sand. Last line of code. Now, weird thing with MakeCode is currently what we're doing is we're doing our calculations so fast that we can't actually see them. So what we need to do is we need to make it so it will stop doing its calculations every now and then. So we can actually see them, go past our eyes.
Yeah.
And we could do that by going to loops, we can find a pause block. Now I'm going to pop this in underneath set background image, and I'm going to change it to 1. Okay? So we pause for 1 millisecond. Oh, and you might have already seen something on my screen. I'm going to put it up large because we're done.
Excellent.
I'll get the code up in a second, but I just want to show this off. And quick warning to anyone who is watching along. We may be seeing some flashing images.
Oh.
So if you're susceptible to flashing images, if they hurt your eyes, or if they could cause you issues, you may want to skip this bit. If you've followed along with the code so far, and you want to avoid problems with flashing, turn the pause number up higher, because if you turn that up higher, then there won't be so much flashing.
Oh, I love this flashing images warning that we have.
Yeah, I mean, we've come across flashing images quite a few times, so I thought it was worthwhile having that up.
Oh, that's excellent.
Anyway, oh, I clicked the wrong button. Let's see what it goes like. Flashing, commencing. 3, 2, 1. And there we go.
I'm standing by here for the big reveal.
It's okay for me. This is really cool. For some people, not cool at all.
Ooh, oh no, it is very cool. It is very trippy, though. I do see what you mean.
I know, but yeah, you can see it just sort of grows on its own.
Yeah,
so if you can imagine what's happening is we're pouring sand into this red blob at the top. And the sand is trickling down throughout the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And, it's so cool. And it just makes such interesting patterns. And what you can do is you can actually put more patterns in. So where I've got this fill rectangle, we can make lots of these fill rectangles. In fact, I've done that earlier. In true Blue Peter style, here's one that I made earlier. So in this one, I've made 5 rectangles. I've made one in the center, and then I've made one at each corner. Okay? And if I open this up and I press play, you can see how they interact. Now, because these are a bit further away, they kind of do this weird... It looks like speakers going. It looks like someone's played some thumping music. And they sort of pulse more and more and they get bigger and bigger. And it is really trippy.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
And it's going to go crazy in a second. And just, I wait for it. You'll have to watch on catch-up, Dan, but it's nearly there. 3.
I'll have to watch on the catch-up TV.
2, 1. Nearly. Go. It's not going. There it is. It's going. Oh, yeah. Sandpiles. They are cool. Oh, and,
I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for the catch up so that I can see this.
Well, what you will just see is.
Oh, there it goes.
What you'll see as well on top of that is I just had a warning to update a bit of software on my computer.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Thank you, OwnCloud.
Thank you, OwnCloud. But yeah, it is cool. And you can do other things. You can actually make it so that there are more grains of sand per pile before it topples. So I can make the maximum number of grains of sand go up to 4 grains. I need to update these to larger colours. So orange is the number 4. Update these to orange. Okay. And then I need to add in some more else ifs. I mean, this is all stuff I made and played around with earlier. If you want to give it a go, then that's something fun to experiment around with. But hang on, nearly there. Yeah, so this is what happens if we have 4 as the maximum number of grains of sand. Now, unfortunately, it takes a lot longer to process. So it's not as wild, and it's quite slow. But we get more colours going on here. And as you can see, they are just not growing as fast as they did. Which makes sense. If you're pouring sand steadily, and it takes more grains of sand for anything to happen, then it's going to grow slower.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what it's doing now. I
can see what you mean, but it's still growing, just at a very slow rate.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to the one we just made. Oh, it's so cool! Okay, I know we're over timed. I'm just going to stick one more rectangle in there, just to see what happens. So I got my fill rectangle. I'm going to duplicate that. Do you want to suggest some new coordinates for us, Dan?
Okay. Let's go with what can we go with this time? Let's go a bit more central this time, or maybe not central, but let's go with 100 for X.
Okay.
And let's say Y can be 85.
85. Okay, and I'm going to keep the size at 5 by 5. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So we now got 2 piles, and they're about to collide, and oof, there we go. Oh, that's a cool one. I wasn't expecting the white to come in from the side. Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Hang on,
let's go for it. I'm playing it again. I like it. And then just a big old arrow of...
Oh, yeah, look at that.
And the cool thing about these is some people have been running really big sandpile simulations on computers that have been going for ages doing it. And they have something like 1 million grains of sand per pixel.
Oh, God.
And they have 1 million pixels. And what they do is they run it for a really long time. They analyze the pictures that come out at the end. And hang on. I need to find the Wikipedia article about it because it's really pretty. I bring up Wikipedia too many times. Oh, yeah. So the Wikipedia article for this, and it's a boring Wikipedia article because it's got loads of just maths in it.
Yeah.
It's self-organized criticality. But we get things like this.
That sounds like a lot of very painful...
It does. But this thing here is a sand pile that's been made with a ridiculous number of pixels and a ridiculous number of grains of sand per pixel.
But it's very pretty.
It is very pretty. And you get even bigger ones and larger ones. And... I need to find the other one. Of course, there's different algorithms for this as well. Yeah, the abelian sand pile, which I can't find. Ugh, Wikipedia. The abelian sand pile is...
I like how the cutscene that we have for is just our own sand pile.
Slowly
Whistling away.
Here's one with more iterations, and as you can see, it gets closer and closer and more smooth and all sorts. But yeah, you get different designs. You get crazy ones that are like this, and you get ones that do even weirder patterns. I mean, this one's just hurting the eyes. But yeah, in any case, I hope you enjoyed. What I will do... Oh, tell you what, you said let's switch over to JavaScript mode. I'll do that in case anyone needs a chance to catch up with some code. So again, best thing to do, pause this video, and that's a nice way to copy it out. Okay, scrolling down.
Oh.
There we are. It's much nicer in the JavaScript, personally. And with the code, if anyone needs to copy the code, top of the code, middle of the code, bottom of the code, and the add function. Any case, that's pretty much it from us. We're a little bit over time, but I think it was worth it for some tricky visuals.
Yes. So, last Technolive before Crimbo next week.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what we got lined up for you next week.
Yeah.
And, until then, have a very lovely evening. And I hope you like playing around with sand. In fact, I'll put it on to play us out today. Cheerio, everyone.
Bye.